Typical bully. Typical bully. Sorry, look on the face. Hello! Piggy! Piggy! It's a crazy dog. Wow. Oh, it's hot out there.
Maybe stick one out the window on your side.
It is 30 degrees outside. This one is actually climbing to proof point.
Yeah.
This is outside. Okay.
Makeli, hello.
So, this is Dr. Nic Stirk. I'm Dr. Kara, your host, and today we are podcasting from my car, which is a little bit crazy. We've got Piglet, who's a bull terrier.
Hello, Piglet.
A little bit crazy. She loves a car ride. Hello. And what are we doing today, Dr. Stirk?
So, we are demonstrating why you should never leave your pets, particularly in the car, but also small children, older people. Obviously, our pets can't talk to us and let us know how they're feeling. So, yeah, people feel that it's fine to leave their pets in the car. And we will, as we go through this little podcast, we'll be discussing what signs to look out for, etc., because ultimately the point of this is to demonstrate heat stroke in our animals.
So, should we turn the car off?
Yes.
Woo!
So just to set the scene, we have, we're sitting here in the aircon.
It's lovely.
So at the moment inside it's saying probably about a nice calm 25 degrees or so. Show you, we've got our little thermometers going in here. Dr. Kara's got one as well that shows inside and outside temperature.
It's outside. Woo.
So what's it saying? 35 outside.
36.7 and climbing.
36.7. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn off the aircon and we're just going to see how quickly the temperature inside the car starts to elevate and how dangerous it can then be for our pets, small children and older people.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, well done, Piglet. Yeah. Well done.
Good girl.
So as you can see, this is a beautiful example of how animals thermoregulate. Sorry, I stuck it in your mouth. Hey. So thermoregulating is just ultimately body temperature control.
And dogs, are they good at it?
With regards to panting, yes, they are, but within limitations as well. So they're not like us, they don't sweat. So they rely on evaporation in the mouth to cool the rest of their bodies. So that's why now little Piglet is obviously a little bit excited as well, but also we can already, the heat radiating off this dashboard and
it's climbing, hey?
the windscreen is already quite remarkable.
Yeah.
So that just goes to show how quickly things start, or the temperature starts increasing.
I'm quite nervous about this podcast, I have to be honest.
Well, this isn't my first rodeo.
Yeah, you've done this before.
I have done it before. I went and sat on the roof, or the roof parking at Watercrest shopping mall. So everyone's familiar with that place, well, in our area at least. And yeah, so that was in October 2020 I did that. And yeah, ultimately it got a really, really good response, because the reason I had done it is because we'd actually had 3 pets within very close proximity to each other coming in for heat stroke, not necessarily having been left in the car. So heat stroke doesn't always happen in the car. It's something as literally as something as benign as going for a walk.
So should we let her out? Because I'd like to start with that.
Yeah.
So just so that you guys don't panic, we would never dream of subjecting any animal to what we're going to put ourselves through.
Absolutely.
Which is nuts. But you can see that they try. They try, obviously, pant, and that is
so ultimately, it's the evaporation that happens inside the mouth that causes the cooling with the saliva and the moisture in the mouth. So when we start discussing the clinical signs of heat stroke, we're going to be touching again on what happens in the mouth. But thank you for being our little proverbial little guinea pig.
I'm going to let her out.
There we go.
Come on, sweetie.
Off you go.
Come on.
Good girl.
There we go. Okay. We're coming back.
Okay.
Okay, in you go.
So currently, we've actually got a little, with this thermometer, you can see that there's a little cord. So that cord is actually going out the window to register what the outside temperature is. And then the main device actually then tests what the inside temperature is doing. So at the moment outside, it's saying 39.2 and inside is 32.5. Here we go. Now we just wait. So ultimately, people always say, I'm just going to shoot into the shops quickly.
Yeah.
And there's never a quick visit to the shops, even if you're just going for milk and bread or anything like
or
that.
even I'm going to crack the window.
It doesn't work. So with regards, you'll probably see with us now that we're going to start sweating, and we'll start demonstrating what that's looking
I'm
like.
doing what ladies do. I'm already glowing. I'm so sorry that you were subjected to this.
For a second time.
Yeah.
But at least it's going to spread awareness, because it is in our climate particularly, it's an important thing to be aware of.
Particularly in KZN, obviously, when people talk about living in Cape Town or Johannesburg, they always go, it's the heat, but it's that dry heat. Obviously, we know that humidity plays a part.
100%.
Okay, so they not only is it the increase in temperature, but also increase in humidity, which contributes to this.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So it's not also, like I said earlier, with regards to heat stroke, is not only in a car situation.
Yes, let's start there.
But if it is in a car situation, just don't do it. Ultimately. So like we said, there's no quick visit to the shops. You're either going to be caught behind someone who's doing their grocery shopping, or someone who might be paying in coins at the teller. Or you bump into somebody. I know, when Dr. Cara and myself go into the shops, it's inevitable we're going to bump into a client and have a little chat about their patients, their pets, or anything else. So there's never a quick in and out. There really isn't. And now, would you believe, on our GoPro, it's just turned off and it says it's too hot to function.
Wow.
So, and we're not even sitting it's just gone to 33 degrees inside.
Oh, wow.
Outside is still sitting at 39.4.
So we're still recording?
We just got the thumbs up. Ultimately, like we demonstrated with little Piglet, they rely on panting. We rely on evaporation from our sweat on our arms, for example. So all going well, we'll start, as Dr. Cara is.
Yeah. And so let's also start with that. I mean, I'm really bad with extreme temperatures, both hot or cold. I just avoid it. So people who go into the sauna, there is some adaptation that happens. And one of the previous short clips of podcast episodes I've done on heat stroke, a lot of the comments back were, oh, well, how is it that, working dogs in Central Africa can cope? And the obvious response to that is there has been some adaptation that occurs. So over a period of time, you become better at dealing with this. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, if they are working dogs, and those, the trainers or handlers will have ample amounts of water with them, for example. So, and they will also know what sort of signs to look out for. So if we go into a sauna, you will get to a state where your body's just like, enough's enough, and then you'll get out and go and cool yourself down.
Yeah.
Whereas a dog, for example, going on a walk or sitting in a car, they can't say enough's enough. And that's where the problem comes in. So
particularly Piglets, a dog like Piglet, who it's just mind over matter. I mean, she'll go until she collapses.
Absolutely.
That kind of breed that just she's busy, and she will exercise and she will run until she collapses. So obviously some breeds are a bit more sensitive. But
so talking about the more sensitive breeds, we do find that so the brachycephalic, so those are the dogs with the squashed faces ultimately. So your Bostons, your Pugs, your Bulldogs, your little Frenchies, Boxers to an extent as well. So any of those flat-faced dogs do have a harder time with regards to thermoregulation with the panting, because all of their anatomy is squashed and they're not as effective. And we also find with Bull Terriers as well that they're not very efficient, or they're not very fit dogs generally.
There's that high muscle mass as well, isn't it?
So so they
burn it out.
And they also overheat very, very quickly as well. So getting back to the car, you saw that Piglet was already panting, so that was her way of compensating for the increased temperature that's in here. Seems just going up a little bit.
33.8 in here.
33.8. So it is rather uncomfortable, when you're breathing in hot air as well. So that's what we're feeling like. And the heat radiating off this dashboard is quite remarkable.
And I'm really trying not to be dramatic. One thing I warned Dr. Nic is that, like I say, my tolerance is not like most people. I'm not a runner.
No.
Are you a runner? Do you run in this heat?
Yeah, but you see, no, I wouldn't run in this heat. Right. Because again, I know, what my limitations are. Some athletes will be able to run in this heat because, again, like you mentioned, they're accustomed to it. But so one of the main causes of heat stroke is dogs getting taken for walks, should I say rather, during inappropriate times of the day, like now, midday. So I think it's the idea of this podcast as well is just to inform everybody, just to bring to their attention that, there's certain times of the day that you shouldn't take your dogs walking.
Definitely.
And that's certainly now during the hottest part of the day. And sometimes even midsummer, even 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning is too hot to go walking.
I mean, you're talking about means of the way we try and dissipate heat. And one of them is obviously conduction. So conduction,
100%.
which pours on a hot tar, will be conducting heat through their pads. So not only are they increased muscle activity and panting and exerting themselves physically, but they're also getting the heat from the ground, which is...
So then another thing with regards to that, I see, device overheated, recording stopped, and it's just switched off.
Wow.
So if you do also, I mean, our hands are sensitive, they're designed to feel. If you go out and you're wanting to take your dog for a walk at an inappropriate time of the day, if you cannot, most texts will say 5 seconds, if you cannot hold your hand directly on a tarred surface, concrete or anything like that, not a natural surface like grass, if you cannot hold your hand on there for longer than 5 seconds, then it's too hot for your dog's feet. I would even go so far as to say if you can't put your hand on there for 3 seconds, it's too hot for your dog's feet.
And if you're thinking, maybe I should test the tar, actually that's probably the point where if you're already thinking it might be too hot, it generally is. So it's not the best plan. Woo!
So Cara's doing a lot worse than I am.
I know, like I say, it's an adaptation
I can start,
thing, I'm sure.
I'm feeling that I'm already...
before.
So there's some sweat on my arm. Maybe if so you can see... Oh, there we go. It's running down. So with regards to sweat, now this is such a good example. This sweat is in response to my body's physiology saying, now you're getting too hot, you need to try and cool down. So we will sweat, and then you hope for a nice breeze that's going to then evaporate that sweat, and that's how we then cool down. So we don't pant, but we've got sweat glands all over our body, and our skin is exposed. And then, air movement over sweat causes evaporation, causes cooling down. So here with us now, you'll see, we'll probably give an example, but the sweat is just going to literally bead on us.
I'm very pleased that the one camera's gone off because it's not a pretty sight in here. In fact, I'm going to tie my hair up. Please excuse me. I know, I would much prefer for us to have done like a carpool karaoke than to have conducted this. Before we continue, let's address a critical aspect of pet care, gastric health. Introducing UltraPet's special diet gastric liquid care, formulated to aid pets during recovery from gastrointestinal issues. This versatile product boasts a balanced formulation with 31% protein, 9% fat, and 3% fiber, replenishing key nutrients essential for pets recovering from gastric issues. Featuring a delicious chicken flavor, it is highly palatable, encouraging pets to eat during recovery. I've had great success using this both with tube feeding and syringe feeding patients. What sets this liquid care apart is its comprehensive approach to pet health, with added prebiotics for digestive health and omega-3 and 6 for immune support. It is a holistic solution for upset stomachs. UltraPet's gastric liquid care comes in a 750-gram pack, providing an optimal solution for pets in need. Give it a try and witness the difference it makes to your pet's recovery. Your companions will thank you, and you'll appreciate UltraPet's dedication to pet health. Now let's return to our conversation.
Inside now, it's gone up to 34.5 degrees. Outside is 36. So, getting back to the sweating, you'll see that the sweat is just going to sit on us. It's not going to actually evaporate, and it's not going to cool us down. So our bodies, in response to this heat, are responding, but it's ineffective because there is zero air movement in this vehicle as well. So even if you do crack the window, you're still not getting air movement in the car, for example. So, as futile, it is a futile exercise for something like that.
But even me tying my hair up reminds me that the long-coated dogs are also more susceptible.
100%.
Having the hair off the back of my neck is helping. I mean, not to say that it's okay to lock a Sphinx in your car, but it is helping a little bit. So long-coated dogs, double-coated dogs, muscular breeds, it's never acceptable.
No.
But these dogs really have a lower tolerance than.
And what we've only been in here probably for not even 10 minutes, I don't even think. And it's, so outside now says 39, so it is a little bit variable. If you get a little bit of wind or air movement, for example, on the little probe that's outside, it is going to cool down. But now there doesn't seem to be much, so that's why it's going to go up like that. So we do get these little fluctuations, but you can see that we are actually becoming increasingly more uncomfortable in here.
Don't know if that's demonstrated.
Demonstrated.
So we obviously let's talk some more about adaptations, and then let's talk about some solutions, because this is something that you see. But maybe let's go back a step and say it happens due to we see dogs because they come in and they're excited and they've got a high temperature. We see them because people have taken them for a walk, or they've been chasing monkeys. But we do obviously see animals with high temperatures because they're not well. So there is a purpose for a high temp, often to fight infection, so like an inflammatory response. But there is obviously a reason why we manage them to try and get their temperatures down. And there are very serious consequences.
100%.
So what are kind of normal temperatures for our pets?
So anything, I would say, even journey between 37 and a half, 38 and a half, that's kind of considered to be pretty normal. My indication that there might be a problem is anything 39 and over. Anything 40 and over you need to intervene somewhere along the line.
Okay.
So if it is an animal, for example, that's got what we call then a pyrexia, so that's not necessarily the same as, so pyrexia is caused by an infectious agent or the like of that. Your body's reacting to something, and it will then increase your core body temperature. Whereas hypothermia, so yes, theoretically pyrexia is hypothermia, which is an increased body temperature. Heat stroke also causes hypothermia. And the danger with that actually goes right down to a cellular level. So the dangers of a dog overheating is protein denaturing. So our cell membranes have got protein in them. There's pretty much nothing in our body that doesn't contain. So our enzymes are incredibly important with regards to chemical reactions, etc., etc. So there's virtually no organ system, no tissue that does not in some way or form have proteins in it, incorporated in it.
And just explain for the listeners, Dr. Stirk, in terms of protein denaturation, what does that mean?
So ultimately the proteins are made up of all the strings of amino acids that are then particularly folded into specific shapes and then held in that shape by a chemical bond. And that's then how those, the enzymes, the proteins in the cell membrane, etc. work. However, with the exposure to heat, those chemical bonds start to almost get too much energy and they start to then break down, which then causes the unraveling of those protein structures, which then results in those proteins being non-functional. They're useless. Yeah. So when that comes to the cellular level, obviously there's then huge amounts of damage that can be done on a cellular level.
And irreversible damage.
Irreversible. Okay. So a very nice example with regards to denaturing of a protein, egg white, if you're frying an egg, it starts off clear, and as the heat then denatures that protein, so it goes white. No matter what you do, you are never going to be able to reverse that white, egg white, that is now white, back to clear. So that is the simplest and easiest visualization of what protein denaturing is.
I like that analogy.
So, ultimately if a patient or an animal goes too far into the heat stroke process, there's actually very little, even if you do get them to the vet, there's very little that we can actually then do, because there's nothing we can do to cause those proteins to fold back into the same shape and start functioning again. Once a protein is denatured, it's denatured. You cannot do anything else about it. So that's why it is so important to get your pets in to us, the vets, as soon as possible. However, if you are needing to do something at home, the most important thing to do is get them out the sun, get them out the car, wherever they were, and get them into a shady area. Get a fan blowing on them, for example. If you have a pool and they don't mind being submerged into the water, sit on the step and submerge them in the water and just keep on pouring water over them. A hose pipe is also a very good method of doing that. However, if your hose pipe's been sitting in the sun the whole day, you need to let it run, because believe you me, that water will be piping hot. You can actually end up burning your dog by doing that. So always make sure, if you are going to use the hose pipe, that you let it run, feel with your hand that water is then cold when you then start putting it on.
And offer them water, I suppose. Hey?
Absolutely, and cool water. Ice is a little bit of a, I think the jury's out. You kind of, some people say use as much ice as possible. Others say don't use ice at all. So there have been a few studies where, and I know we're going to get into some of the technical stuff in terms of how we manage these cases, but I, obviously having done emergency work for many years, historically used to use ice packs, particularly in the groin area, and that is now contraindicated. So, we're always evolving in terms of our knowledge and our professional sort of development. There are new studies that say that that's actually one of the worst things you can do because of the vasoconstriction. And so we'll go into that sort of technicality, but it's fascinating how we are getting better at managing these cases. So with regards to the vasoconstriction, which happens with cold, so that's why often you start going pale. If you're really cold, you start going pale because your body's, in a way to try and conserve heat, is to make the blood vessels smaller and then basically channel more blood to the vital organs and the core. So by doing the ice packs, you are inadvertently cooling down. So yes, you are cooling down that particular area, but we're actually wanting those blood vessels to circulate the heat and dissipate the heat. So that's why pouring water on. So water is constantly moving. It, what can you say, almost like grabs that heat and takes it away from the animal, whereas that ice pack works in a very localized area.
And it's also telling the hypothalamus, which is the temperature regulation of our bodies, both us and our pets, that, okay, we're getting cool, where the reality is we still need to dissipate and we still need to lose a lot more heat. So really, really risky, and a great intention that a lot of owners have, grabbing the ice packs, and we see it in practice. It seems like a sensible approach, but actually, the fans and the cool water are...
So even some people will say wet a towel and cover the dog with a towel. That also has been shown to actually be counterproductive, because it actually forms almost like a bit of an air layer between the cooler towel and the dog, and they're actually still generating heat, which is then trapped underneath the blanket or the towel. So the good intentions, again, are to try and cool them down by covering them.
You want air movement.
So that's why the hose pipe or submerging them in the pool, for example, is a very, very good way, because the water, that radiant energy is going to dissipate into that and be taken away from the body as opposed to being held onto the body.
So in the same way that you described vasoconstriction, obviously what happens when we're hot is the opposite of that. So, let's discuss why you and I are both slightly red.
I'm probably red now, yes, so red all over. But you can see...
I'm just like
you're running, you're dripping. I'm wearing a very absorbent shirt here, but you can see even that you're all of the... But it's performing absolutely no function because it's not evaporating.
There's no airflow.
No airflow. Oh, yeah, there's a nice one. You can see, I don't know if you can see all those little beads of sweat on there. And what are we in here now? I swear it's hotter than this.
It does feel a lot hotter.
It has gone up from 33 to 35.8 now. But outside is still showing 39. So,
and a lot of our cameras have stopped working.
Yes, so we've got our cameraman outside filming us from the outside. The sweat is literally sitting on my arm. It's dripping off. Sorry, Corey, you're going to have to wipe your car down.
It's fine.
I'll just
it's either dog hair or human sweat.
Dog hair or human sweat, that's it.
Yeah, the combination of both is not so good, hey?
So you can see...
Oh, we are uncomfortable.
It is rather gross in here. But I think
but this is necessary, and this helps us a lot. This helps us.
In normal circumstances, yes. So if we had the fan on now, we would actually feel a lot cooler than what we would actually be, because we're getting the air movement and the evaporation. Device overheating, it's gone off again.
Okay, all right.
Well, I think but that's actually such a good example.
Yeah, it's great. You don't want to leave the camera in here like the... No, okay. Come on, sweat vest. Okay, bye. You're getting some through the window, and our voices.
Yeah, we're getting your voices.
Okay, let's turn this right down so that if we ever have to. Okay. So we're talking about evaporative loss. I just want to be very clear about this. I usually can think things through, but I can already sense that my thought processing is impacted by this heat. I mean,
look at this. You can see we are
dripping
literally
with
dripping
sweat.
with sweat. It's also
No, don't worry. Please don't worry. I think that's more sweat from me than you actually right now.
So let's talk about the clinical signs that people need to watch out for. So we've spoken about what you can do for it. Preventatively, understandably, hottest parts of the day, don't take your dog walking. If you can't put your hand on the towel for, I would say, longer than 3 seconds, then that's a no-no.
Yeah.
So obviously earlier morning, late afternoon, I think it is vitally important that everybody is on the same page when it comes to your pet. So if you're asking your children to take your dogs walking, if you're asking your domestic help to take your dogs walking, you need to explain to them all of this, because funny enough, when I did this in 2020, we had, the one was a bulldog, which unfortunately actually didn't make it. But that domestic worker had been told every day without fail, you need to take this dog for a walk. So exercise is good, but taking them at midday, any of the hot times of the day, that's not acceptable. So that was an unfortunate episode of misinformation, if I can say that, or ignorance, because they were told they have to do it. Same with children. Children don't understand the concepts of heat stroke, overheating, etc., etc. So that's what's so vitally important, that everybody, like I say, is on the same page. Everybody knows you don't take them hottest times of the day. End of story.
You made mention of children. I think this applies in terms of our very young pets, so the puppies, first walks, and then the senior pets. Their regulation of temperature is not like an adapted adult.
Yeah.
So they're also pretty vulnerable, aren't they?
Absolutely.
So you've got to know that when you've got a young dog, it's lovely, you want to introduce them, you go to the farmer's market and it's a hot day and you think, oh, it's fine. And it's really
it's not.
Yeah,
it's not fun.
Okay.
And also puppies as well, because they're usually so energetic and enthusiastic and aiming to please. They rely almost on us to be like, right, that's enough. Otherwise, they just carry on and carry on and carry on and carry on. So,
So clinical signs.
Clinical signs.
Yeah, other than collapse.
We digress there again.
Yeah, sorry.
So, if they've collapsed already, that's way beyond what they should have been doing anyway. So, initial signs, remember when I pointed to little Piglet's mouth, her gums and her mucous membranes were a beautiful, nice pinkish color, rose petal pink if you want to call it that. If those gums go bright red or a very, very dark red, almost like a maroonish sort of color, they're in trouble.
And that is vasodilation, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the body is dramatically trying to get rid of that heat. Excessive panting. So what little Piglet was doing in here with us, that's normal panting, normal thermoregulation. I mean, you'll get those dogs that'll lie out in the sun and you just like wonder, what are you doing? And they'll sit there and they'll be panting, and eventually they will then get up and move into the shade, which is what they can do. I mean, that's fine. If they're forced to go on a walk, different story, for example. So excessive panting, and it almost comes like as a raspy, like they literally cannot breathe or pant fast enough to get that air in. It's almost like a frantic pant.
And that's also because there's edema now, isn't there? So the soft tissue and everything. So you saw the vasodilation sort of in the mucous membranes, but everything is starting to swell.
Yeah.
And so any of the soft tissue in the throat, particularly the short, like you said, the short-faced dogs which have the squish face but same amount of tissue and teeth in there, are really
literally running down my face. Oh, geez, like So I read it's gone up to 37 inside, so that's still going up.
And it's a very hot day. I mean, we've chosen a particularly warm day for this.
It's literally dripping off my eyelashes as well.
Lovely.
So excessive panting, dark red, very bright red mucous membrane. So that's the gums and the lining of the mouth. If you think your dog's tongue is long, you have not seen a dog in heat stroke, because their tongue literally looks like it's wanting to hit the floor. Yeah, literally like a cartoon animal. So they're excessively panting. If you feel their heartbeat, so you can even just put your hand on their chest and it will be an incredibly rapid heart rate. Again, the body's compensatory mechanisms are kicking in to try and get that blood circulating faster to try and get that heat dissipated.
And this is 2 reasons, isn't it? Because you've now had all your blood vessels dilate, so you've had vasodilation. It's actually all the blood flow is now in the circulation trying to dissipate that heat. And this is, like you say, a compensatory mechanism. You actually end up with a hypovolemia. So you have, your heart is trying to go, hang on a minute, there's less for me to pump around. What a vicious cycle.
It's horrible.
And then you're dehydrating.
Absolutely.
So you're losing more fluids.
So that's the
to,
thing.
Okay, sorry, we digress again.
I mean, I'd actually I'll try and take a video with my phone because this is what I can go home after.
I'm going to just for
educational purposes.
It's a bit of a sweaty mess, but let's see the dripping.
Or you can see also here. I mean, it is.
The perspiration.
So my body is compensating what's trying desperately to do so. But with no air movement in here, this is absolutely futile, unfortunately. So again, to recap, red mucous membranes, bright red or either like a dark purplish sort of red, excessive panting. The saliva will often be very, very thick, very, very sticky and gloopy. It doesn't, I mean, you get those big dogs that will drool anyway, but I mean, it becomes even more so like that. And that's also showing that the moisture content of that is starting to dissipate. So the dehydration, again, evaporation is not being effective enough to do something like that. The increased heart rate, and it will be massively increased. So generally sort of like anything maybe between 80 and 120 beats per minute can be considered to be normal in a healthy animal. Respiratory rate will be generally about a fourth or a quarter of that. So they will always breathe slower than what their heartbeat is. So also she's breathing in this hot air as well. It's just, it's getting unpleasant. And then collapses obviously then. So vomiting, diarrhea can also happen. So dogs particularly are very prone to gut upsets in a stressful situation, for example, and heat stroke is an incredibly stressful situation.
And that's back to your denaturing. I mean, the viability of all your membranes in your body, and that includes the gut. I think obviously critically, because we spoke before, and I say I'm not thinking as clearly as I would normally. Sorry about my questioning in this podcast, but it's a very clear indication of what happens when you get hot and because one of the major things we see and the reason for collapse is you get brain edema. Everything's swelling. Those proteins are throughout the body and it affects multiple organs. And
if not everything.
All the organs.
So ultimately what we would do if you managed to get your pet into a veterinary facility as soon as possible, we would do the wetting. We would do my fingers are actually going wrinkly, like pruning, as if you've been in the bath too long. That's how I'm sweating and nothing is happening. So that moisture is just sitting on my fingers. That I've never seen before. That's quite new. Sorry to digress again. No. So we would then put the animal onto fluid therapy as well, and literally shock. We would pump those fluids in to just try and A, cool them down a bit, and then B, increase the blood volume to counteract the decreased blood pressure and the hypovolemia. But I mean, much else than that.
We're trying to perfuse those organs that have been, and it's sometimes too late.
So that's the thing. If it is left too late, no matter if you get them into the vet or not, once they've gone into severe hypovolemic shock, ultimately, heat stroke shock, so thermal shock, if those proteins have denatured.
And the rest of it is supportive treatment. I mean, there have been studies of using, particularly in supporting the blood volume again, and trying to provide some clotting factors, because one of the things that you get is issues with blood clotting, because those are used up in terms of the some of the consequences of this overheating. And so we sometimes give frozen plasma. Again, it's not really known how much it's actually supporting, but it's
better than nothing.
Absolutely.
Ultimately.
We give sometimes medication to try and manage blood pressure, so vasopressors, if we have access to them. In South Africa, we don't always have access to them. We will give antibiotics, generally, won't we? Just supportive in case we get...
Also, more so for even the gut, because if the gut lining has been compromised,
Yeah.
who's to say that we're not going to get sort of cross-barrier transmission of the normal gut flora, which are supposed to be there in your gut. They're not supposed to be in your system.
Yeah, that translocation ends up as a sepsis, right?
And again, also, I mean, ultimately your antibodies, your immune system will all have proteins in there. So if your proteins are being denatured, your immune system's not going to work as efficiently as what it should. There's just a huge number of implications of what
renal
it is.
failure,
100%.
liver failure.
So that's at least we would be able to do something from a monitoring point of view for that. So after we've managed to stabilize a patient, if we have been successful in that, monitoring ongoing, would be to check kidney function, check what the liver's up to, and the hematology as well, I would say. So that's a nice monitoring tool. So again, if everything comes back down to normal, everything should be fine. But if things are looking a little bit suspect, then keeping them in hospital, keeping them cool. But then again, you have to be very careful. So that's where the ice packs come in, because if you then actually cool them down too much, you then start going into hypothermia. So that's not as bad as hyperthermia, but it's still obviously not great. So you don't want to kind of cascade them down to a freezing point or below core body temperature, as opposed to being too high.
Absolutely.
So
I
don't know about you, but my whole shirt is not actually literally
I look like
colour.
I've stepped out of a swimming pool. If only.
I'm glad we can still laugh about it, because it is actually becoming incredibly unpleasant in here.
Let's do a temperature.
So it's now 45.5 degrees inside the car. So
no, that's out. So 41.
So
that
inside
shows mentations are affected.
Yeah, you see, we're not actually concentrating. So 41.5 inside the vehicle, 45.9 outside.
Yeah.
But I have to be honest. I think we've discussed what we need to. And we'll probably get Mr. Cameraman to have a look at us when we actually get out the car, so that we can.
So I think, in summary,
yes,
don't delay. Ideally, we see a massive higher percentage of our patients surviving if there's been proactive cooling
and
in an appropriate
sooner,
if owners bring them in, having attempted to try and cool them, whether it's been on the car journey or at home. Don't leave them. Try not get into the situation to start with. Obviously, that's like rocket science. But if you find yourself in a situation like this, get immediate attention and anticipate that the outcome may not be favorable. And it's not your vet's fault.
No. So even though we could theoretically stop your dog from panting and the mucous membranes could go back to normal color, heart rate back to normal, respiratory rate back to normal, we don't know on a cellular level what damage has been done.
And I've seen these dogs, Dr. Stirk, I've seen them end up with a hemorrhagic diarrhea. I've seen them, obviously they come in collapse and they're comatose, but we've seen them for a period of time thinking, and not seeing them actually ever recovering brain activity or normal brain activity. So we're obviously watching them from a neurological perspective. We're watching for signs, and we're monitoring them with blood work to assess the organs like the kidney and the liver and whatnot. So we do what we can. It's a very risky practice. So we just encourage owners, and we hope this brings awareness.
Absolutely.
This has not been pleasant, and I have been super brave. I haven't whined as much as I've wanted to. I can tell you, this is truly totally unpleasant. I'm going to crack the windows so that our cameraman
get
can
out the car. Actually, maybe. So you'll still be. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
So we're going to start getting. I don't know if you can see. See, my arms are already feeling cooler now with that breeze on.
Isn't it lovely?
It's amazing. So my face, my arms, my shirt has absorbed everything. Even my trousers are.
I look like I've gone for a swim. It's not the case. I wish.
See all of.
Let's see. Take a look.
Yeah, you can see all of this beaded sweat all over my face, and my cheeks are nice, and my ears are nice. Yeah, now it's working because we've got the windows open and we're getting some movement in here.
So now that we've stopped, let's go through the main mechanisms of dissipating heat: convection, conduction, evaporation, and radiation.
Yep.
Okay. Dogs are efficient, or maybe a little bit more efficient at evaporation, except when they can't evaporate.
Yep.
Okay. So we have better mechanisms, including the ability to change our environment.
Yes.
They rely on us.
Precisely. So again, even if you aren't keeping your dogs in the car, for example, I mean, now today is an exceptionally hot day. If your dogs are outdoor dogs, they need to have access to fresh, cool water. and shelter, shade, so that they aren't just in a garden with no shade or anything else like that. So even the amount, the difference between being in the shade and being in full direct sun, it's remarkable how many degrees difference there is, and that can be the difference between life and death ultimately at the end of the day.
Bear in mind the vulnerable ones, the brachycephalics, as Dr. Nic Stirk said, the short-faced dogs, the dogs that are susceptible to things like laryngeal paralysis, the old, the young, and the long and double-coated dogs.
Yeah.
Excellent. And why is it the cats don't struggle like this? Are they just more savvy?
Well, I would like to believe that people don't really take their cats in the car.
My cat roams. Do you think they find a nice shady spot?
Oh, yeah, but I think, with regards to that, I mean, if they will be able to get over fences, over walls and stuff, so they can potentially get away from the heat. So if a dog's in a garden or a courtyard that's concreted all the way around with no shade.
And then the monkeys pitch up.
Getting them active, so then they get the heart rate going again as well, generating body heat because of the activity. And dogs will be dogs. They don't often have an off switch. They rely on us to say enough's enough. So also with regards to the cool water, if you're using a metal bowl, so metal bowls are preferable because from a hygiene point of view that you can keep them nice and clean, and they clean very easily, and you're not going to get, for example, allergic reactions to plastic or anything else like that. But if you've ever picked up one of those metal bowls when it's been lying in the sun, you're asking for trouble. You can burn your fingers. So it is so important that if you are keeping water, cool fresh water in a metal bowl, it must also be in the shade so that it doesn't then become hot.
And not conducting off like a tile or something hot on the floor.
Yeah.
So better to leave it on the grass, if anything.
Yeah, grass under the shade. Yeah, keep it nice and cool and fresh.
Great advice.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Dr. Nic from Watercrest Vets. Thank you for putting me through this. I think it's been a great opportunity for us to discuss quite a vital subject, and hopefully we will mitigate some of this.
Well, especially in our climate where, I did that thing in 2020 in October, which is not even classified to be our hottest time of the year. So now February, March tends to be historically our hottest time of the year. So, yeah.
So Dr. Nic Stirk has done this before. You've done it, in 2020?
2020, October 2020. You're on the rooftop of Watercrest Mall. So, yeah, if you've ever been there, you know how hot it can get up there as well. Yeah. And that video was posted on our Facebook page. So, your Watercrest Vet Facebook page. You might have to go sifting down or under the videos tab there. All the videos that we've done over the time, it'll be down there.
We can attach a little link to it so people can go and have a look.
So see what we did there. So this is the second time I'm putting myself through this.
Now that you've had company, do you think it lasted a bit longer?
It seems like forever. I just looked now. It was 13:13, and now it's 13:16, 17. But it seems like we've been in here for an extra 20 minutes. It's ridiculous.
Time does slow when you're uncomfortable, and that breeze is incredible.
Yeah. So now we've got the breeze, and our sweat is doing what it's supposed to, and we are evaporating. So
and now inside and out's kind of getting to the same temperature.
To the same sort of temperature.
41. So what a lovely day.
Yeah.
Amazing.
They're nice if you're on the beach and you can go swimming, but
if you can get into the waves now.
It's certainly not taking your dogs for walks or anything like that.
Absolutely.
So awareness, education. If you wouldn't go running or walking,
no, but they're crazies out there.
Yeah,
I'm so, I say it with total respect. I totally admire all the runners. There are a lot of people now in the mornings and evenings training for the marathon. I don't know how they do it. I just there with my aircon on.
No, slightly cooler, like I say, in the mornings and the evenings. Yeah, because if I go running, then I do it after work when it's cooler. Yeah. Because I'm really not a big morning person. But generally, sometimes even you wake up in the morning and you're like,
warm.
Gosh, it's going to be a stinker of a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
thank you.
Be responsible with your pets as well. So just to summarize again, there's no quick visit to the shop, so don't rather leave your dogs at home. They'll be actually probably happier at home as opposed to panting in the car. Yeah. Same goes for older people and children. The signs to look out for: excessive panting, increased redness of the mucous membranes, increased heart rate, thick, sticky, dry, tacky mouth, and then collapse, coma, death, if you don't get to it soon enough.
Absolutely.
And cool down. Cannot stress that enough.
And get to your vet as promptly as you can, because some of those clinical signs start later.
Yeah.
So even if you think, okay, my dog's been running around, I've cooled them down, they seem to be fine, actually they need supportive treatment and care.
Particularly ultimately the fluids would be the best one, because dehydration, your kidneys
you can't replace those yourself.
No. So.
Great, thank you.
Well, thank
I
you.
really
I'd say
appreciate
thank you, but
I should have left.
I don't know how grateful I am being conned into doing this a second time, but I think we've absolutely made our point.
Yeah, very much so.
Welcome back to Just for Pets. You're with Dr. Cara.
Hi, Doc. It's Justin the Jack Rossi here, and boy am I itchy.
Are you on a hypoallergenic diet?
Hyper what now?
Changing to a special diet will really help. And Just for Pets have a massive range. And flea and tick medication, special shampoo.
Ooh, how quick can you get some?
Order today and we'll deliver pronto.
I feel better already.
Justforpets.co.za. Vet approved, pet adored. Get it all to your door.
We have an exciting announcement to make. We are looking for guest speakers who are passionate about the pet industry and sponsors to support future episodes. Are you an expert in pet training, nutrition, or behavior? Maybe you're a veterinarian with insights to share, a pet store owner with unique experiences, or a pet product inventor. We want to hear from you. The Pause and Effect podcast is a platform for industry professionals like you to showcase your knowledge, experiences, and stories. As a guest speaker on our podcast, you'll have the opportunity to share valuable information, engage with our audience, and have your voice heard in the pet community. Whether you want to discuss training techniques, emerging pet care trends, or the importance of mental stimulation for pets, we want to feature you and your expertise. So, if you're passionate about pets and have something to say, we invite you to join us on an upcoming episode of the Pause and Effect podcast. But wait, that's not all. The Pause and Effect podcast is also seeking sponsors to support our mission of educating and entertaining pet lovers worldwide. By becoming a sponsor, you'll gain exposure to our engaged audience and have your brand associated with the love and care that we have for our four-legged friends. If you own a pet-related business, offer pet products or services, or simply want to align your brand with our pet-loving community, we'd love to partner with you. As a sponsor, your brand will be featured prominently in our episodes and our social media channels. It is a great opportunity to showcase your offerings to a dedicated audience of pet enthusiasts. So whether you're an expert in the pet industry looking to share your knowledge, or a business seeking to reach a pet-loving audience, we want to hear from you. To apply as a guest or to inquire about becoming a sponsor of the Pause and Effect podcast, please contact me at drcara@pauseandeffect.co.za. Get in touch and let's discuss the various opportunities. Thank you for joining us today. We can't wait to welcome our future guest speakers and sponsors to the Pause and Effect podcast. Remember, every episode is an opportunity to celebrate our four-legged friends.